Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you right now. I thank you, Jesus, Lord God, for your word on today. I ask, Lord God, that you would minister this word to my heart and to the hearts of others here today, Lord God. Lord, I ask that I be decreased and that you be increased in me. And we ask, Lord God, that you would just, Lord God, allow your word to fall on us like rain today, Jesus. Minister to our hearts in a way, Lord God, that we never felt before. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So today I'm coming from Romans chapter 10. I just want to say that was a beautiful praise and worship. Very lovely, ladies. I enjoyed the salty. Okay, starting at verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according of knowledge. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness, and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. And this message doesn't really have a specific title for me, but what it is dealing with, when I read it, is dealing with seeing salvation in a whole different way. Really understanding what it means to walk in the righteousness of God. And when Paul started out here, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. And when I was reading that, one of the things that kept coming to me was when I was thinking about my walk with God and how when I'm interfaced with people that are around me, and Oswald talked about that this morning, the people that God has in your face and has around you and how it's forcing you to deal with yourself when you see the things that you see in them that are like you. And one of the things that I have a tendency to do, and sometimes I think most of us do, is when we see ourselves, especially when we're in a place where we're walking with God, but we're kind of, I don't know, for me, I like to stay a little bit comfortable. You know, I like some heat, but then let's get cushy too at the same time. So sometimes I'll find myself walking and then I'm like, okay, I see that. Yeah, I can recognize that. And I get so used to recognizing things and things like that. And, as Christians, we can get a little bit comfortable in our walk. One of the things that I always remembered being said was that when we're in a hard time, it's easier to draw on God because we want so badly out of that hard time. When we're in a good time, I'm seizing a blessing and God is breaking through, it's a little bit harder. But one of the things that I find that needs to be done in that time when I watch our pastors is to praise God more. When we're going through, it's time to draw on God more, drawing on more of His strength. Oswald's been dealing with that too, about how you need to kind of gird yourself up in worship. But then when it's time, when God is breaking through, it's about praise. But it's a little bit, for me, I notice, like, I can see how you can get slack in that because now you're starting to feel like I've been doing all this praying, I've been doing all this praying, and you want to break. And when you start to see yourself, one of the things that I always try to do sometimes, for me, I find myself sometimes pushing away from God. And what I do is I get a little bit, we can get so, it's easy to get caught up in religion where you kind of look at yourself and you start to say, okay, I recognize that, but I don't like that about myself. So God, please change that, instead of going deeper and just dealing with it and talking to God about how you feel, going back to the basics of just dealing with yourself before God. And what I thought Paul was saying here is that when he looks at the children of Israel, because this is something that always happens to us as Christians in our walk, and I remember Pastor Fred saying this was a 911 message, and it is from my heart, but what it's saying to me is that sometimes we have to be mindful and we have to be careful when things are coming up in our face and we're starting to see ourselves. And the way you can recognize that is when you start to see, like I said, those that are around you, whether they be family, whether they be friends, whether they be new people that God adds to your circle, and you begin to see the idiosyncrasies, and you can point them out clearly, and you start to see them. And then sometimes what we tend to do is that we think we've overcome them, and God is like, no, you have not overcome this. I'm just showing you this because I want you to remember where you've come from. But without me, you cannot overcome this. And so when he begins to deal with us again, and he says, for I bear them record that they have no zeal, that they have a zeal of God. To me, that speaks to my heart because it's like, I know I want God, and I know I want this walk, and I want this relationship with Him, which is the zeal that I have for Him. But when I'm not fully working it through, what happens is that it's just like it says here, but not according of knowledge, because you can't really come to the knowledge of what God is saying in His righteousness in that situation until you work it through the way it needs to be worked through. But what we'll tend to do is say, oh, you know what, I'm looking at this situation and it's really getting to me. It's really bothering me. I don't like it. I can see it for what it is, and it just doesn't look right to me. And what I know I've been guilty of saying too, especially sometimes in the workplace, I've been seeing that a lot. You know, where I'm looking at myself and I'm seeing myself in a lot of the people around me, but I'm not quite calling things up the way I should. You know, I just want, okay, you know what, I'll just pray. You know, I'll just pray. I won't say too much. I'll say just enough. And then what I'm seeing when I do that is like how much compromise is in that. You know, and what I find is that the more we compromise, the more we get caught up in that slackness. You know, and that slackness where we're not really pressing in and getting to the heart of the matter. And that's why he's saying, for they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves into the righteousness of God. And then when we, like I said, like when we do that, it doesn't allow us to really see it for what God is really saying. Because sometimes what I find is if I'm not dealing with myself in that way, I can't really see how God's salvation really applies to my life and to that person's life in that situation.
Right.
You know, because when we move further into it, he begins to talk about how where is that preacher? Where is that person in that situation? Where is God in this situation? Because you guys, he's basically just crying out saying, you know, I know you love God and I know you want God, but do you want him enough to really continually press in, to continually stay steadfast in this walk with him? You know, and what he was showing me is like, you know, I want to take you higher and higher. We know God is moving. We see it in the church. We see it with our pastors. He's moving us to higher dimensions, higher places. He's taking us. But he's like, when I take you higher, there are going to be higher mountains to climb, and there's going to be a lot more coming at you. Are you going to be doing this for me, or are you just going to be talking about me, but not really seeing yourself in these situations where you have to work these things out so that not only my salvation can flow through you, but that these people can be saved. The people that I'm going to have around you, the people that need to see my light in you. You know, salvation to me right now is just like, I see my dirt, I see myself, and I'm like, before I used to want to sit up there and beat myself up about it. But to me, I'm like, I forget that Jesus got on the cross for me for this. You know what I'm saying? He did all this. He took the beating. He took the lashing. And so when I see myself, all he's asking me to do is come to me. Just like Pastor Fair was telling us last Sunday, come to me, confess those things. Because the closer you get to God, the more dirt is seen. You know, the more of your stuff is seen, the more everything gets highlighted. And it's not easy. But at the same time, he's like, I took all this upon me when I got on the cross. I took it all. And you don't even realize it until you sit there and you really, and you get into yourself and you start to look at all this and you're like, my God, you saw this, but you didn't walk this out. You were in my sin. You took my sin, but you didn't sin. You took this sin upon you and you put it on the cross. And you put it on the cross for my life, so that I may be able to have life more abundantly, so I don't even have to walk this out like this. But to get to that place has to be so you can't get so far caught up into the fact that, okay, I've been walking with God, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. But now all of a sudden it's like, you know, it becomes a routine, it becomes religion. And so what I find is for me to get out of that religious mindset and get out of that religious place is to be able to say, okay, I'm getting a little stagnated. When I'm looking at the people around me and I'm like, are the people around me stagnated? Are things around me stagnated? That means I need to press in. I need to move further into God's hands. I need to talk to God more about what I'm seeing, because some of the stuff that you're showing me, you're going deeper into my heart. You're showing me where the root of a lot of this is coming from. And you're showing me also more of my dirt that's not easy to handle, that's not easy to take. And when I look at that, I'm like, okay, this is where your righteousness comes into play, because now I have to talk to you about this. I have to be honest with you before you. I have to get before you and say, you know what, I want this because I want this more than I want you. I want to look good more than I want you. I want to sound good more than I want you. I want you to take me here because it makes me feel better about myself. It's easier to talk about the things that I want more than it is to talk about the weaknesses that I have before God. And what God is saying is every time I move you from glory to glory, I'm going to show you more of your weaknesses. And it's not easy to look at. I don't know about you, but it's not easy for me. But what Paul is telling us is that it's not about it being easy. It's about us getting to a place where we have to draw on God more to realize how much we don't want God.
Right.
And ask him to be able to say, you know what, God, I don't want you, but I know I need you. And I need you in my heart. I need you to press in more into me, because I realize my depravity doesn't want you. You know, what I want to do is cover this up and just say, you know what, I know what it is. I know what it looks like. I've walked through this before. I've seen this before and all this kind of stuff. I want to dress it up, you know, and I want to have
It's basically, like he said, you know, knowing the power of, having the power of God, but denying it therein. You know what I'm saying? You know God, but you're just denying his power because you're not really working it through like you used to. You know, and that's why I'm so grateful to God for this, because when I was reading it, another thing that I kept getting was when I was going to Psalms 121, when he said, you know, instead of getting in that place and in that rut, I'm not bringing you here so you can feel bad about it, but what I am trying to show you is that you're getting to a place where I want to take you higher, which means, you know, like how David said, you know, I have to look to the hills from which cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord, you know, the Lord that made heaven and earth. Sometimes I get so caught up and I'm thinking, and I heard Tarsha say this today, it's like, we hear God, but do we really trust him? Do we really trust that God is really going to bring us out of these places? Do we really trust that God is really going to move? He's really going to promote. He's really going to do these things for us. Right. But are we looking for him to do these things for us because we want it for ourselves? Or are we looking for him to do these things for us because we really want God's light to be shown in these areas? There's so many places that God wants to take us, and he's willing to take us. But the thing is like, he's like, okay, are you willing to deal with your heart in this area? Because I'm going to bring people with that same heart that are rigid in that hard place. And are you going to sit there and are you going to look at them and look your nose down on them and be like, I know what that looks like? Are you going to go back to that religious place, or are you going to press into my presence and deal with that same issue in yourself? Let the light shine in that area. Deal with me. Talk with me about it. Because I'll show you my righteousness. We think we know the words to say to somebody to encourage them out of that place. But what we find is that if we really press in, if we really talk to God, and we really start dealing with ourselves with God, the more that we allow God to work those things out in our lives and in my life, then I can see the breakthrough in other people's lives. Right, and what I notice is like when I begin to walk it out, then you hear people come up to you. Like the Bible says, you don't need to boast about it. But when you do, what happens when you do, you find yourself getting caught up thinking like, okay, now I'm living on past victories, instead of using those past victories to move you further. You know what I'm saying? Those same things that got you that victory there, you need to take that same thing that you use, that pressing in, that praying, and you need to keep going with it. It's just like a train. It's like, don't look to it. Don't sit up there. Of course, you can remember it. That's your testimony. But sometimes we tend to dwell on it, you know, especially when we start to get comfortable. But he's saying, take that same thing that you did there and continue to propel on, you know, so I can bring more breakthrough. Because one of the things that happens with the breakthrough, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the first thing you're faced with, like I see my pride, I see my selfishness, I see all this stuff start to come up when my breakthroughs come. And it looks like the ice. You know, it's just like when we looked at the Canaanites and all these ice that came out. If you go to Joshua and you start to see how when they broke through, they got all these people, the Amorites, the Canaanites. And to me, all of those is my pride, my religion, my arrogance, all that. And so when I break through and God begins to break through, that's the first thing that comes up in my face, are all these ites that I have to work through. You know, if you think about some of the things that God has done in your life this year, and you think about some of the things that God has got, the doors that God has been opening, some of the times when I find myself going there, I find myself talking a little bit too much, and then when I see that, I'm like, my God, look at me. Just braggadocious, like, oh, I've been praying. Y'all don't even know. I've been praying, and look at how this, and it's all about what I've been doing instead of what God has been doing. And then when I find myself going there, I'm like, there's that pride, there's that ice, there's that. And it's like, these are all the ice. But he kept reminding us to be encouraged, because he didn't, just because he's showing us these ice. Because for me, I got nervous whenever I saw him. I'm like, oh, there go my pride again. There go my arrogance. There go my this. There go my that. And that's just still me staying caught up in myself and not really pressing in and saying, okay, God, this is my pride. This is me. This is who I am. I'm giving it back to you, Lord God, because you're opening a door. You're opening a door for me to be able to walk through so people can see more of you in me. Not for me to be standing here in this, you know. So instead of just standing there and just getting caught up in how I'm getting caught up in my own situation, giving that situation back to God. You know, I love how God sets us up for all different kinds of circumstances. And before, I used to get so caught up in my fear with that. You know, I don't know about you, but when I would see things come up, I'm thinking like, oh my God, why are you allowing this, and why is this happening, and why is all this fear and anxiety comes up, and it's just like, you're bringing all this to me right now, and he's like, yes, right now. But did you forget I'm still here? I'm right here. Are you going to draw on me, or are you going to get caught up in the circumstance? And he's like, you know what, this week when I was struggling a little bit this week, I was like, God, how good is it to draw on you when we are in these places, when you are turning up the heat, throwing stuff in our face all day long, and you're saying, come to me, draw on me. You know, all I'm asking is that I want to give you more of me. I'm not giving you these circumstances so you can sit here and be fretting, so you can sit here and be worried, so you can sit here and be angry and the stuff. I'm showing you these things because I want to bless you, because I'm saying, come here, I'm going to take you further into this. But that means you have to press in deeper, you know, because we start to feel like I said, it's easy to get comfortable. And that's why Paul was addressing this here. It's so easy for us as Christians, and he's talking to the people of God. He's not talking to the Gentiles. He's talking to that you guys have such a zeal, but you're not pressing in. You're not getting to the place that I want to take you. You know, I want to take you further. I don't want to have to raise up a nation that's outside of my nation, you know, to come up, and I will do it. He will do it. But he's saying also too to us, I don't want to have to do that. I'm just saying right now, can press in. Get back into me. Let it be about me and you. Let's not let it be about the stuff. Let's not let it be about all this, you know, all this stuff that's happening. And it's so easy to get distracted. Trust me, the enemy is just waiting. He's waiting. He's like, look at that. Didn't you like that? Stay there for a minute. Stay there. Stay caught up with that for a second. Because that's a way for him to maneuver in, and before you know it, there's another blow-up. But he's saying, even in the blow-ups, come to me. That's what my salvation is for. I wouldn't have got on the cross if I didn't know this was going to happen to you. I got on the cross for this, for you. You know, because I want more of my righteousness seen. I want more of me seen through you. I want more of my life. I'm not blessing the Christians right now so they can boast because they've been down for so long. I'm blessing the Christians because I want people to know me. I want people to come to God.
Right.
You know, because this world is so depraved. Like I said, I sit on my job and I watch these people all day long crying out, trying to figure out how to cut corners and how to do all kind of things, when I was just thinking this morning, like, what about the truth? What happened to the truth? Everybody's like, well, tell them this and tell them that. And I'm like, this is why we need your truth. Because people need to know the truth. We respect the truth when we hear it from one another. How much more do they need to hear it from us?
That's right.
You know, how much more do we need to call things up in that way? Whether it be in prayer, whether it be in whatever situation. But I know that's how God is telling me and dealing with me. He's like, you know, and it's not easy. Every time he pushes a little bit more, pushes a little bit more. But one of the things I thank God for is when you draw on him, that peace and that rest, and how you see him flow. And it's so much easier that way. And I love watching it when we look at the examples that we have before us with our pastors. I don't know about you, but I thank God for that example. You know, because so many of us, we have our parents, and I thank God for our parents. And then we have them as our spiritual parents. You know, and the two dynamics, I see how they blend, and they almost help us with our relationships with our moms and dads. You know, because it has, I don't know about for you, but it has made my relationship stronger with my parents. And I thank God for them with that. But I know all God is saying is, like, I'm trying to bring healing. Not only, first of all, it always starts at home, and then it spreads abroad. Because if you can't have that healing in your own family, if you're still sitting up there looking at everything that they're doing wrong and everything that's going wrong, he's saying, look, I didn't bring you here so you can see that. I brought you here so you can press in to realize the wrong that's in them, it's in you too. And I'm trying to work it out of you. I'm trying to bring it out. I'm trying to work it out to the place where you learn how to cry out to me. You learn how to take those things that you see in them and in yourself, and you bring it to me, to bring it unto subjection with me. And then you ask me to help you. Because salvation is a day-to-day thing. It's not a moment-to-moment thing, and it's not a one-time thing. It's a day-to-day thing. Every day I wake up to Tanika. I do not wake up to Jesus. You know, and when I wake up, I'm not always feeling okay with myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know about you, but I tend to get a little, you know, I get lazy. I'm gonna put it out there. I get lazy. You know, and I wake up to myself every morning. And when I wake up, I can't just sit up there and be like, and you know, sometimes God will have you on this track where you're doing so well. You're doing so well. And then all of a sudden, you know, things start to simmer down, and the next thing you know, you're back to you again. And it's just like, what? What is this? This ain't, and then I forgot it was me. Because I really thought the well was me. You know, I really thought like, I do this. This is what I do. You know what I'm saying? This is how I roll. You know, and I forgot that is not how I roll. That's how Jesus rolls. You know what I'm saying? But I have to get back into his presence and realize and draw on him that without him, this is who I am. I am all of this junk and more. You know, but that's why Paul had to remind us, you know what I'm saying? Because we know that. We know these things. But he had to get real with them right here in Romans chapter 10 when he's telling them, that you have a zeal of God. You have a zeal. You know God. You know who he is. You're excited about him. You can talk about him all day long. Talk is all good, but when you're not living it, when you're not walking it, it doesn't make any, it's null and void. It doesn't mean anything. And he's saying, all I'm saying is that because I'm breaking through, because I'm bringing all this stuff to you all right now, I'm not bringing it here so you can get so caught up in it and forget where I brought you from. Because I'll show you where I brought you from. I'll send little reminders. But when I do, you better remember who was your strength, who was your God in that situation, in that circumstance. Don't get so caught up and don't get so put off. And don't go into your head, because I do that a lot and y'all seen it, but don't go into your head thinking that this is all you and this is all what God is doing for me because I'm this, and this. He's like, no, I'm showing you this because I am God. I want to be God in your life. I am your salvation. I am the one who saved you. Let your salvation, let the salvation of Christ, let his righteousness flow through you. Let it come to bear in your life so that others can see it. Not just, like I said, not just us, but those that are around us. You know what I'm saying? God wants to do a mighty work. To me, the breakthrough is revival. To me, that's breakthrough. That's when Jesus is seen in this earth realm, when people can see Christ in us, when people's lives are changed, when they're turned around. To me, when we go, when people in here, because we're going places, I believe it. I don't know about you, but I believe it. I know we're going to go into Hollywood. I know we're going to go into the music industry. I know we're going to go into some of the most influential industries out there. But he's like, I can't take you without you knowing that you have to draw on me. You have to be the one to know that you have vices that you like to go to. You have to deal with those vices that you like to go to when you're struggling and you don't want to come to me. You have to be real about that. I know I have them. I know I love to escape in so many different things. And he's like, what are those things that you're escaping in? Because trust me, when you get out there, they're going to be stronger. And they're going to be harder. And they're going to hit hard. And if you don't start dealing with these things right now, you will. Like, I don't know if you've been reading Oswald lately, but that's what Oswald is dealing with us right now on. He's like, if you don't build yourself up in worship right now, if I take you out there, you think you can really handle the enemy? We have no power over him. The only power we have is Jesus Christ and his salvation and his righteousness.
Amen.
I want to go, but I'm telling you right now, I want to go, but I want to be girded up before I go. I want to know God more and more. I want to understand. I want his salvation to be more and more rhema to me. So when I'm out there, that I'm not vexed, or I'm not sitting out there like thinking, what is this? What's going on? Why is this? Why is that happening? And why is everything happening? Why? And it's just like, instead of just pressing in and just saying, God, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what are you saying to me? Quit trying to look at your outside circumstances and thinking it's about that, and then you need to remove yourself. No, press in and say, what are you saying to me?
That's right.
Because all the time, I know I'm a big person. I love to run. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, this don't feel right. I don't like it. This ain't right. And that's the religious side to me, trying to run, thinking that I'm better than this circumstance, instead of pressing in and asking God, why is this bothering me? Why is this vexing me so? Why is this hurting me so? Why is this getting under my skin so? I promise you, if you ask God that each and every time, and you ask him to show you, he will. He will. And then in that place, that's where you can draw on him more and thank him for his salvation. Ask for the forgiveness. Salvation always starts with forgiveness. All he's trying to do is saying, I'm showing you your heart. That's all I'm doing. And I'm asking for more of you in this. I'm asking for more of your heart. I want more healing here. I want more of me in this heart. Less of you and more of me. So I thank God for this message, because I know for me it's a wake-up call. I pray for you it is too, but that's my message for today.